Hello, my name is Katie Lipp. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm Director of Health Professions Advising at Mount Holyoke College. If you're watching this, you are probably new to pre-health and you are also likely new to Mount Holyoke, depending on when you watch it. So in either way, welcome. This is a presentation of an overview of pre-health at Mount Holyoke. Give some information about resources, how to get started, how to stay connected, how to be prepared for an eventual application to a program in the health professions, or simply how to explore if you're not sure yet. So let's dive right in. So in our office, we have two full-time staff. That's me there on the left, and then my colleague Jackie on the right. And we also have a student worker who's with us every year. Currently, our student worker is Maria, who started with us last spring, and is now a sophomore. And our student workers help us out a lot with events and Instagram and a whole lot of things, often behind the scenes, but sometimes out there and connecting with other students. So you may see and hear from Maria as well as Jackie and me. Throughout this presentation, I have included pictures of several of our alums who have gone into different health professions, and so I'll introduce you to them as we go. This is Norgia. This was taken shortly after her White Coat ceremony for medical school, and she is, in my memory, either just finishing or recently finished medical school and would be in residency at this point. So we are the Office of Health Professions Advising, and what that means, and I will not read through this whole slide, but summarize it. What this means is that we are here to support anybody, student or alum, who has really any degree of interest in the health professions. So if you're really not sure, maybe you're exploring several different career paths, great, we're here for you. If you are an alum who is 100% sure and maybe you're making a career change and you know exactly what it is in the health professions that you want to do, great, we're here for you. Um, we offer a lot of different ways of providing this support. So, one-on-one advising is kind of what I would call the bread and butter of what we do. We have lots and lots of one-on-one advising meetings every single year. And that's probably the most important thing that we do is connecting with you directly. We also do what I would call group advising, which often is in the form of events where we're sharing information, answering questions. Um, Also, other events that are less about advising, for example, visits from professional schools and alums who might be coming, whether on campus or virtually, to connect with people who have some interest. And then a lot of online resources. So we have a very robust website with a lot of resources and information. So broadly, those are some of the ways that we provide support. We help people to explore broadly, so a wide range of academic interests, career interests, and we encourage people to find their passions and follow those. And that could include things that are not directly in the health professions, as well as things that are. We really encourage self-reflection. It's an incredibly important part of the process. And so that's something that you will hear about. And then the application process, which is sort of the culminating event, if you will, of this whole process of heading towards graduate programs in the health professions. We support applicants through all stages of that process. And this is Allie here on this page. So Allie recently began a program in nursing. So, who should connect with our office? Maybe what I said on the last slide already kind of covered this, but just to go into a little bit more detail, the short answer is everyone. But the more nuanced answer is that whether you are just beginning to explore or are committed, whether you're not sure if what you're interested in would fit into the quote unquote category of health profession. If you just have a couple questions, if you have loads of questions, we really don't want anybody to feel that they can't access us. And so if you feel like connecting with our office is something that might be helpful for you, then you are the one who should connect with our office. This is Sonali on this page, and she is a current medical student. So how do you connect with our office? Um, I should mention at this point that if you look below this video, there will be a link. You'll find a link to the slides, and the slides that I am using, what you see on this page is links to these different resources, and there will be other links throughout that you can also access by, again, clicking on the link below this video and opening up the slides. So these are the things that we encourage people new to pre-health to do pretty much right out of the gate. This is how you get connected with us, stay connected with us, get updates and information. So our mailing list is really, really key. That is the primary way that we communicate with the pre-health community. Also joining the health professions career community in Handshake. Again, that link will kind of steer you to the right place to do that. We have an Instagram page that is managed by our student peer advisor. So we highly recommend following us on Instagram if you use Instagram. Um, and I mentioned the website and professions before. And then advising appointments are made using Handshake, which is the same place where you can join the career community. Just follow the instructions for making an appointment, select the appointment type that feels right to you at the time that you're making the appointment. And as long as the appointment type has the words pre-health or health professions, you will end up with a pre-health advising appointment. And contact us if you ever have difficulty making an appointment. Our contact information will be at the on the last slide. Okay, so Eliana is on this page, also a current nursing student. So I want to provide some clarification between pre-health advising and faculty advising, and also just what you might expect from a pre-health advising appointment. So, as of the time of making this recording, it is August of 2025, just before orientation is about to begin, and orientation for new students, that is. And so, depending on when you watch this, you may have already met with your faculty advisor and know who that person is, and have started to get a sense of, what that role is that that person might play, or you may not. But in short, every student at Mount Holyoke is assigned a faculty advisor who is there to support you throughout your time at Mount Holyoke and in planning out and completing your course of study. Your faculty advisor may change during your time at Mount Holyoke, but you will always have one, and that person will always be officially your advisor, sort of in official places like when you go into Pathways, for example, or when you're asked who's your advisor for the purposes of, I don't know, filling out certain forms, major declaration forms, things like that. With pre-health advising, you are never assigned to me. I am the pre-health advisor. You're never assigned to me. Because I'm available to you at any point. So nobody needs to be assigned to me. It's a similar structure as other campus advising offices, advisors in the Career Development Center, or these are peer advisors, but in the SAW Center, which I'll bring up, or Trying to think of other examples where they're not assigned in disability services if you meet with somebody there. So anyway, I am available to everybody. So what you can expect in a pre-health advising appointment, the vast majority of appointments are 30 minutes long. You will come to the Career Development Center and check in at the front desk. And pretty quickly, you will meet my colleague Jackie, whose picture you saw on I think the very first slide after the title slide. And then I will come to get you, and we will go to my office for your full appointment. And as I said, it's usually about a half an hour, and we can talk through whatever is needed at that time. It is important to be prepared, so you should know what you want to talk about. If there are documents that you want to look at together, please send those in advance. That's really, really helpful. Make sure that you've thought about what questions you have. And make sure that you know where you're going for your appointment so that you can be on time. That's really important. If at any point you are unable to make an appointment and need to cancel or reschedule, please do that as early as possible. The quickest way to reach us, if you have a morning appointment and wake up sick and you need to cancel, right before your appointment, giving us a call in the office is always going to be quickest, or you can email us at pre-health@mtholyoke.edu. But we do expect that if you have an appointment, unless something comes up like you're sick or an unavoided complication, that you will be there and you will be on time. So I mentioned before that appointments are in Handshake. I think I went through those details. And if you're new, I do recommend that you make at least one appointment this fall so that we can connect and get to know each other and get you started off and running. Okay, so that's what we do, but going back a little bit, what are the health professions? We've been talking about health professions and pre-health, and I mentioned in an earlier slide that we define this broadly and we don't want anyone to feel that they can't access us. But what really does that mean, right? There must be some boundaries, right? Well, what are those? What are the health professions? And on this page is Uzma, who I believe has graduated from medical school and is a medical resident at this time. So this page is just a sample list of health professions. I am sure many of you looking at this list can think of health professions that are not here. And I don't mean medical specialties, although certainly we have not listed those here, but I really mean truly different professions with different um, schools and degrees that you earn afterwards. So, in other words, if you are a physician assistant in pediatrics or in psychiatry, your training and degree are the same thing. It's the same profession of physician assistant with different specialty areas. Whereas podiatry and genetic counseling are two completely different professions with different schools that train you and different degrees that you earn at the end of that. But this list is not an exhaustive list of the different professions that are out there and professions that we can provide support with. There are definitely many others, even that pop into my head right now, of people I'm currently working with who are exploring professions that don't appear here. So, again, don't think of this as everything, but just some examples. The idea is that I hope everyone can see that there is a lot of variety in terms of what we would define as the health professions. And also, as I've said multiple times now, that we don't want anyone to feel that they can't access us. And so if you do connect with our office and we have a conversation and discover that, perhaps a different advisor is going to be better positioned to support you in your interests, then I will help you make those connections. But we certainly don't want anybody out there feeling that they can't access support. Oh, and I guess before I change this slide, I also wanted to just point out that there are professions on here. You'll sometimes hear me talk about clinical and non-clinical professions. So clinical health professions being those where you are directly treating patients. That would be most of the things that are listed here, but not all. And then non-clinical professions would be things like environmental health, health education, health research, scanning down the list here to see what's written, public health. Those would be the ones that are listed here, where you are involved in health. You may even be engaging with patients and or the general public, but you yourself are not the clinician who is treating that person or animal's health and well-being. You are addressing health through other means. And so those are part of pre-health as well. Okay, so there's lots of different ways to explore. Again, you can see that there are links here, and so you can peruse those at a time that's convenient for you. I just want to, let's see, I'll give some shout outs to some of the things here. Explorehealthcareers.org is a great resource for learning about a very large number of health professions, more than you will find actively listed on our website. So I highly recommend that if you are looking really broadly and trying to learn more about what the different professions are that are out there. But our website as well, if you go to that first link, lists a lot of different professions with additional links and information about them. So that can be another really great way to start, and it will definitely include internal Mount Holyoke links for campus resources, which, of course, the external explorehealthcareers.org will not have Mount Holyoke links. I've talked about events before, so those can be a great way to explore connecting with people who actually do these jobs, have these roles, getting practical experience in these different professions through volunteering jobs and internships. Again, meeting with me, we can definitely look at resources together, talk through different professions, opportunities. And there's that word self-reflection again, right? I brought that up earlier, that engaging in self-reflection can be really important as a part of your exploration process. For some people, that looks like writing, journaling. For some people, that looks like having conversations with people. Self-reflection can, take different forms, but that's a really important part of the process. And I just want to mention that when we talk about exploration, it's also not only for those who really don't know what they want to do. Perhaps you're entering college with a true certainty about the profession that you want to enter. That does not mean that exploration of different professions isn't valuable. You may be approaching it from a different perspective, but when you are working in the health professions, you will be working as a team. Maybe not every day, again, depending on your job, your role. Maybe your day-to-day is primarily working on your own. Maybe it's primarily working with other people who do the same work that you do, but your patients or the people who you are serving are connecting with lots of other health professionals. Excuse me. They have a whole healthcare team and resources of people out there who are there to help them and support their health. And it's important for you as a part of that system to understand it and to understand what the other professions are, and how people are connecting to them. And, as a side bonus, when you apply to to graduate programs for your profession of interest, you will be better able to explain why it is that you want to do what you do if you've explored some other things, and really been able to make some comparisons and understand why the choice that you have made is really the right fit for you. So we encourage everybody to explore. And this is Grace here on this page. So Grace is a vet now. This picture was actually taken before she was in vet school, so the picture itself is a little old at this point, but Grace is a vet. There's again some more information here on how to explore, but specifically through academics is definitely one avenue for exploring your interests and exploring health as a topic, right? And really looking at health through many different lenses. And so a lot of people will think about biology, for example, as a great place to explore health, and it is. And you can find health-related courses in all of these departments that are listed here. Probably more courses shift over time. These are the departments that I happen to have listed right now. But look broadly, really, look at areas that you may never have considered. Perhaps you never thought about taking an environmental studies class or a philosophy class. But when you look in those departments, you may actually find some classes that seem really interesting. And even if you're not going to study those areas in depth, may complement what you are studying in depth through your major, for example. So look broadly across the curriculum. Just some additional links there below for more resources on finding health-related courses, both at Mount Holyoke and throughout the five colleges, if at some point you are interested in taking one or more courses off campus at one of our partner schools. And there's self-reflection again. And again, you can schedule an appointment to meet with me. So that's a little bit of repetition from prior slides, but two really important things, that self-reflection process and having pre-health advising meetings. Okay, so this next section that was sort of a segue into talking a little more in depth about the academic preparation for an eventual application to health profession schools. This is actually probably what I get asked about the most and the soonest from people who are new to pre-health. What classes do I need to take? What do I need to do? So let's talk about academic preparation, and with a little intro help here from our friend Esther, who is a current medical student. So when you're trying to figure out what to do with academics in terms of preparing, it's important to also understand the end, and even the part of the end that you're not seeing, which is how the professional schools are going to look at everything that you've done. How they're going to evaluate your transcript, and your academic record. So certainly they're looking for strong performance, right? When you're applying to health profession school, you are applying to school. You're applying to an academic program, and therefore they want to see how you have done in your past academics. So if it's a program that has prerequisite courses, meaning courses that the graduate or professional program, have said you must take these courses in order to be eligible to enter our program. That's what prerequisite courses are. They are going to look to see that you've taken those and that you've done well in them. They will have a cutoff grade. It is not the same grade for every single profession or every single school, but in the vast majority of cases, the cutoff grade is a C. There will be a cutoff grade where schools will say you have to earn at least this grade in order for us to essentially check that box and say, yes, okay, you completed the course. But there is a difference between the minimum required grade and a strong grade in terms of competitiveness for schools. So they are looking for strong performance, strong grades in those prerequisite courses and overall. So an academic record that shows really strong grades in all of the prerequisite courses, and really weak grades in everything else that you've done is not ultimately going to be a strong academic background for applying for health profession schools. In most cases, for most professions, they're also looking for a strong foundation in the sciences. That's not universally true. So there are definitely some professions, occupational therapy comes immediately to mind. Public health is another, where depending on the program itself, so public health is very, very broad. Some public health programs are very, very strongly science focused, and others are not, depending on the specific area within public health that you're studying. But again, just to use that as an example, public health occupational therapy, those may be programs where there is much less science required than something like, say, pharmacy, medicine, veterinary medicine, lots of others, but they are going to have many, many more science courses required. So there's some variety, but in most cases, a strong foundation in the sciences is going to be important. Breadth of academic experience refers to the idea that that schools recognize the value in courses outside of the sciences. So even if they are looking for a strong foundation in the sciences, they may, in fact, not only appreciate but require that you take some courses in humanities, in social sciences, writing intensive courses, language in some case, which is not common, but you can find that as a requirement from some schools. So real breadth of your academic experience and exploring a liberal arts college is a great place for this because you do get a lot of freedom to explore and take classes in a wide variety of disciplines. And then they're looking for a rigorous curriculum. And so sometimes, yes, that can refer to sort of the overall academic rigor of the institution that you are attending, but also the choices that you make about what courses you're taking, the level of challenge of your semesters. And I'll put in a caveat here, which is that challenge should not put you overboard. So, in other words, there's always needs to be that balance of challenging yourself with having a schedule, having classes that are really the right fit for you. So there's that sweet spot right there in the middle. Okay, so that's how they're looking at your transcript, and there's certainly lots more that we can and will talk about in terms of that as you move along in your planning and preparations. But as an overview, that's what they're looking for. So here's Isabel, who is a current veterinary student. Um, I feel like I should pause for a second and point out I only have three professions represented through these pictures that are on my slides: veterinary medicine, nursing, and human medicine. And that is only because those happen to be the people who we have pictures of. But what I said before is true. I promise that we do support people in a much wider variety of professions. Um, Okay, so some course planning recommendations here, and this by design has to be very, very generalized because really your course plan, uh, there's a lot of detail and nuance in that is specific to you. And so really the best way to figure that out is to have an advising appointment. And we can really dive into that and work on a plan that's going to be best for you. But on a very general level, these are some recommendations. So I tried to define a little bit before the difference between clinical and non-clinical professions. So if you're really interested in clinical professions where you will be directly treating patients, you may want to consider taking biology and chemistry early because most of those professions again, some exceptions like OT, but most of those professions are going to require a lot of biology and chemistry. And so, building in for yourself the time to complete multiple courses in those areas can be helpful. Having said that, if you are feeling really interested in potentially majoring in a quantitative area, so math, statistics, physics, astronomy, computer science, data science, chemistry, I may have left somebody out because I'm not looking at my list, but if these or any other quantitative heavy area interests you as a major, you should probably prioritize classes in those areas early because that's an area where you're going to be taking a lot and need the space to build on it. So math, statistics, physics, chemistry, prioritize those things early. Again, this is a place where having a meeting with me to really plan out or map out your specific plan can be really, really helpful to figure out, if you're prioritizing these quantitative areas early, when, for example, might you start your biology classes if you are still going to need a good handful of those. And so we can talk through that one-on-one to figure out what's going to work best for you. If you're interested in non-clinical professions, the advice gets much more vague because those professions often do not have specific prerequisite courses, and therefore there's not one list that you need to follow. Look for courses that you're interested in that relate to your area of interest. And again, back to that exploration, explore the field that you're interested in entering, and think about the courses that relate to that. And as always, having meetings and we can talk about it. I talked about that balance between challenge and, not over challenge, making sure you're taking care of yourself is really, really important. And I encourage people to make a 4-year plan or even a 4+ year plan. Sometimes are including, sorry, some people include, time and experiences beyond college in their plan. But oftentimes, as a pre-health student, there are a lot of academic requirements because you will have a major that's required for graduation. And you, for most professions, you're probably going to have prerequisite courses. Those may or may not overlap with your major, but either way, you have to make sure that you are going to be able to fit those in if your goal is to complete all of them before you graduate. And so making a plan can allow you to map that out and see how they might fit. It doesn't mean that your plan is set in stone. In fact, I guarantee that it's not. Something will change. We don't yet know what, but something will change. But having the plan gives you information about how to think about your classes and your scheduling. And actually, that structure then creates, it makes it a little bit more easy, excuse me, makes it a little easier to be flexible, and to shift things because you've got it mapped out and you can see, oh, well, if I need to shift this one thing here, then maybe the easy way to shift it is by just moving this other thing there. But if that's not planned out, then the shifts are harder to predict and sort of see and adjust. And we can do that together, that 4-year plan. That's certainly something we can work on. Okay, I titled this one Academic Encouragement. So there are certain things that I really want to encourage people to think about and to really lean into. And you may not be the person who needs to hear all 5 of these things, but I find that many students need to hear at least one of these things, sort of top tips. And so I want to bring them all in right now. So first of all, strong grades matter. And I do find that most pre-health students, people exploring the health professions, realize that right at the beginning. But I just want to reemphasize that the strong grades matter not only in terms of how the schools are assessing your academic record, they also matter in the sense of you building your own readiness. So how successful you are in your undergraduate courses is going to play a role in how well prepared you feel for the next courses, for example, right? More courses that build on each other. It's gonna play a role in how well prepared you feel for your graduate or professional program. If your graduate or professional program has an entrance exam, it's going to play a role in how what your foundation is for that exam. If it's a content-based exam. Some different exams are different, but it's going to play a role in that as well. And just a side note, the grade is not the only thing. Certainly, people can be well prepared and have really thoroughly learned content, and still not have an A. So, they don't always have a 100% correlation, but they do have a correlation. So the strong grades matter for many reasons. So prioritize your academics. And what I mean by that is back to this idea of balance, right? That if you're finding that you are not able to be as successful in your classes as you would like because you're overloaded in other ways, whether that's personal commitments, work commitments, it can be a variety of different things. That may be a time to step back, self-reflect, and make some changes if you need to. But I always encourage people, if you're recognizing that you're struggling in an academic area, don't just push through without making a change. Figure out where that struggle is coming from, what resources you're going to need to adjust, use those resources, and make those adjustments earlier rather than later, because the struggle can build and can build on itself. But if you adjust early and you are able to get back to that successful space for yourself earlier rather than later, it's going to really help in the long run. And the other related piece to that is that if many people watching this are going to be new to college, so first year students, right, who are not just new to Mount Holyoke, but new to college in general. Um, and if you think back to, for example, when you first entered middle school or high school, from whether it was from elementary school or from middle school, although I think that, elementary to middle school is a particularly big shift in terms of the structure for most people. Every school is different, but the structure of what your school was like and what your classes were like. If you think back to that time for yourself, you had to learn new things. You had to learn how to organize, knowing what your homework is and when things were due, a lot more independence. I won't go into all the examples because that's not what this presentation is about, but that's a transition time in academics that you've been through. And if you're new to college, you're going through another transition time. So as you know, because you were admitted to Mount Holyoke, Mount Holyoke students were very, very strong high school students, right? You all did really well in high school. That doesn't mean that this is not a transition for you. It is for everybody, and you will need to build some new skills. You will need to adjust some study habits. Not all, but everyone is going to go through some adjustment. And the more that you can do that earlier rather than later and really sort of accept that that's a change that you need to lean into, and that as amazing as a student as you are, there are still things to learn about how to be a student that will help you through these 4 years of college and in your preparations for, again, those applications for health profession schools. Okay, so some specifics. Quantitative skills are really critical, especially if you're in one of these STEM heavy required professions. So professions that are going to ask you to take a lot of science and math prerequisite courses. Even if the math courses are not emphasized in the list of prerequisite courses, the quantitative skills themselves are really, really critical. If that is an area, even whether or not that is an area that you feel already really strong in, or scared of, or just dislike, or like, but you struggle with, whatever your relationship is to your quantitative skills, um, a, building those further is a great thing to do earlier rather than later. And one of the reasons for that is because, again, if you are going to be taking a lot of STEM courses, you're going to need those skills in those courses. Some of the STEM courses that you take may have a math or stats prerequisite themselves. Some may not, but still benefit from you building and shoring up those skills. So lean into this area. Really consider taking a math or a stats class early. Is it something that can fit into your first year? Maybe, maybe not. Great if it can fit into your first 2 years. but don't put it off. This is a great thing to think about early. Um, I put in some notes. These are just examples of kind of uh, supports and resources available for building quantitative skills. So the course listed there is pre-calculus. So if you have not yet taken pre-calculus or need a refresher, that is a course that is offered and available before jumping into calculus. PLUMS, hopefully you've heard of, but the peer-led undergraduate mentoring system. Um, Plum's mentors are available for intro and even some non-intro STEM classes, and so they can be an amazing resource for helping you out. And faculty support. So, if you're really nervous about your calculus class or your physics class, your professors are there to support you and to help you through that and to make sure that you can be successful in those classes. So another thing that I often sort of hear from some students is that they really don't like writing or that they feel that they're not particularly strong in writing. But this is another area where going into the health profession, strong writing skills is really important. You may not be going into writing as the core of your profession, but at a professional level, it is important to be able to write clearly, to write professionally, and so strong, and also for your applications, strong writing skills are important. So this is another thing to not put off. Your first year seminar is writing intensive, so write from the beginning, everybody is doing that to some degree. Um, and look around for other writing intensive courses. They may be a requirement for health profession schools, they may not. But building those writing skills, again, especially if you're someone who feels that you're not strong in that area or that you really just don't like that area as much, leaning into that early is actually a great thing to do. And again, resources here. We've got writing intensive courses, the SAW Center, Speaking, Arguing, Writing. Um, the mentors who are there can support you in your writing, journaling, just writing, even though there's nothing formal about that. But just, if you're not someone who regularly writes, um, getting yourself into the habit may make it just feel a little that much easier when you're doing it of necessity rather than out of choice. Um, are you eligible for any sort of academic accommodations or think that you might be? Maybe you have been eligible for and used accommodations in high school. Maybe you never did, but you're at the point of thinking, I'm not sure, but I think that maybe I might be eligible for something. There's this area that I've always struggled with. This is great to explore early. Again, like the other things that I'm talking about here, it's something that you don't want to, sort of wait because you say to yourself, well, but I'm doing okay, so it's not something I need to look into right now. Um, there are different reasons to look into it now, but one that I have been thinking a lot about recently, and I want to make sure that people understand, is that if at some point you need accommodations in the future, so a big one that can come up is for entrance exams, right? If you need some sort of academic accommodation for an entrance exam that you might need to take for a health profession school, if you have not if applying for accommodations for that exam is the first time in your life that you're applying for accommodations, it is less likely that you will be given those accommodations. And at that point, things are pretty high stakes if it's your entrance exam. And so, starting that process years earlier, where you look into your eligibility, you're granted your accommodations. If you don't end up using them, okay. But at least exploring that process. So, just like the other things I'm mentioning, this is not just does not apply to everybody, but it applies to enough people and is something to think about early enough that I think it warrants putting out there right at the get-go. So there's the resource link there, disability services here on campus. They're a great place to connect with and they can help you out through that process. Again, if you have had accommodations in the past or not and need to ask some questions, they have a lot of resources on their website and advising support as well. And then self-care. This one is for everybody for sure. We all need to take care of ourselves. And the phrasing that I use there, that it's not just a buzzword. Um, it's not. Self-care is not just nice and fluffy. Um, but it's really critical to your success and your progress. You may have, heard about the idea of doctors needing to take care of themselves so that they can take care of their patients. Physician, heal thyself, right? You have probably heard on airplanes, help somebody else, help yourself with your oxygen mask before you help somebody else. It's all kind of the same idea. In order to help others, you really, truly do need to be in a good space yourself. And in order to be at your best, to do well academically, right, that I talked about before, to do well in your jobs, your internships, all the things that you're involved in, you need to take care of yourself. And so that's not only about using services like counseling service, but certainly that is. Um, a really important area to be aware of. I actually, if I were to add another place, I would add Be Well on here as well. And so you can look for Be Well on campus if you have not connected with them, but they are about, again, self-care and sort of overall wellness. Um, so those are things to also, again, lean into early and be consistently aware of that you're taking care of yourself. Um, Not a whole lot to add here. This is just a slide that is, reminding you of some resources, giving you some links, but these are things that we've largely talked through a lot of those, and you've heard about them in other spaces as well, I think. So there's a lot of information in this presentation. This is your 15-second stretch break. Ready? Go. Did everybody do some stretches? I did. The self-care piece is important, right? So sitting and staring at a screen for a really long time, your brain and your body need to move a little bit. So give yourselves those breaks. But let's get back to it now. All right, so a little bit more information to share with you. Here is our alum, Lacey, who is now a physician. And what should you do outside of classes? We just did a whole bunch about academics, but there is more to preparation for the health professions than academics. And so this is another really common question that I get is, what do I do? What should I be involved in? And so here are some thoughts. The first place to start, which does not look like an answer, but you'll see in a minute how this is the beginning of the answer, is to again look from the end. So, what are the health profession schools thinking about? How are they evaluating applications? What are they looking to assess in applicants? Because knowing that can help you to figure out what is it that you are that you're going to do, that you're going to be involved in outside of your classes. So this is a list of what we call competencies. It is an adapted list, not a complete list, from a list of pre-medical competencies from the Association of American Medical Colleges. And I use this list across professions because it is the one singular place that I am aware of that really thoroughly lists a lot of these competencies, and they're very broadly applicable. So human medicine is not the only place that's looking for evidence of your strong written and oral communication skills, for example, right? It's really broadly applicable across professions. So I steal their list all the time and use it for really any profession. And like I said, this is adapted. Their list is 17. I've combined some things here just to make it fit onto the slide and to sort of give an overview of what sorts of things schools are looking for. And you can see, I just mentioned written and oral communication as an example. You can see further down on that side, quantitative reasoning skills, scientific inquiry. You can see some of the things that I've already been talking about that come up here in the competencies, but also other things that I haven't yet been talking about, like the ability to interact effectively with people from diverse backgrounds is really, really important when you're working in healthcare. So this is a starting place, is understand what these competencies are, and how schools are looking to assess applicants. And what I want to also point out on this slide is that you may notice that what is not here is a list that looks like shadowing experience, research experience, volunteer experience, right? In fact, I believe that none of those words, I'm double checking. Um, yeah, shadowing, volunteering, research, none of those words even appear here. That doesn't mean that those are not great things to do. It does mean that the schools, and there are always exceptions to these things, but the schools, by and large, are not assessing applicants based on a static list of activities, right? What they're assessing are the competencies. And so, if you think about just the first thing written here, a clear understanding of the profession you hope to enter, how might somebody demonstrate that? What can you do that is going to help you in the future on paper show to a professional school that you have a clear understanding of the profession that you hope to enter? Those of you watching this are probably thinking of some similar things and some different things from each other. There's a lot of different things that you could do. You can read on websites, you can read books, you can listen to podcasts, you can talk to people who work in that profession, you can talk to people who work in other professions, you can attend events, you can job shadow, you can. Oh, I was supposed to say read books. I already said read books. You can do a lot of different things so you could take classes, right, that might connect to that profession. So you can do a lot of different things, all of which may help to build that very first competency that's listed there. And so again, it's not about one static list of you must do ABC, but rather what are you gaining from the different experiences that you are participating in? Which competencies are you building through experience A, B, and C, right? And not everybody's experiences look the same, and that's a good thing because we want diversity of experience among our health professionals and people who are entering those programs. Now, having said that, is shadowing a great experience? Absolutely. Is research a great experience? Absolutely. Is volunteering a great experience? Absolutely. And are those things sometimes required? Absolutely. So none of this is a 100%, right? But I like to start here because it's important for you to know that there are many ways to prepare and many, many different things that you can be involved in that will be valuable in your preparations in working towards an eventual application. So what do you do with that? Right? That's like, okay, Katie, that all sounds very nice, but give me some concrete information here. What do I actually do with that? Okay. Well, follow your passions. And again, this is not just something that sounds nice, but there's a very practical reason for this as well, which is that when you find something that you are so excited about, that you want to do more and you want to challenge yourself more and you want to take on a leadership role and you want to dive in and investigate a topic really deeply, that is powerful in terms of the knowledge and experience and skills that you are building and what you can then show to professional schools. So it's actually a very important part of the preparation is really make sure that you're excited about the things that you're doing. And that may mean if you're a first year student that you're exploring a lot of different things at the beginning because you're figuring out exactly the directions that you want to go. Don't over tax your schedule, right? We talked about that before, but exploration is great, and then narrowing down to the things that you're really, really most excited about. Challenge yourself to try new things. You may find that you actually love something that you never thought that you would love or never tried before, and that can be great as well. Um, Building your study skills coming up again, right? That's something else that's going to be really, really important. And again, pursuing opportunities to learn more about your profession. That happened to be the competency that I mentioned on the prior page. But this is a really good place for more of that self-reflection because if you find that you're constantly leaning in another direction, and even if you have an opportunity to do something related to your intended profession that you're saying, I don't really want to, I really want to do this other thing instead, think about that. What does that mean? Does that mean that even though you've intended to do this thing, maybe it's actually not the thing that you're really passionate about? And if that's the case, do you pivot? And it's okay to do that. It's okay to shift, even if it's something that you've been thinking about for years. If you find something that's a better fit, that's totally okay to shift to that. It may not mean that. It may mean that you're in a particular life circumstance where you have an opportunity that won't come again, and so you're, pursuing that temporarily before getting back to things related to your intended profession. But again, reflecting on that is really, really important so that you can sort of fully understand yourself and the choices that you're making and what's going to ultimately work for you. Um, Yeah, and then I'm gonna, I guess, oh, let me just introduce Jojo. This is Jojo here, who also is studying nursing. So continuing a little bit with the what's next, these are a lot of resources for exploration. They're relatively limited, meaning you probably already know there's lots of other things on and off campus that you can do. But these are just some places that you can go to for information of things that you might be interested in. One thing that is not on this slide, but I think is coming up on my next slide, so let me just go there, is student organizations, of which there are loads. I'm just highlighting 5 right here that are health and science related student organizations. But there are many, many more. And as I was saying before, you should follow the things that you're really excited about. And so I have definitely worked with pre-health students who have been deeply, deeply involved in student organizations that have nothing to do with health. And they have been incredibly meaningful experiences for them and areas where they've built a lot of knowledge, a lot of leadership, a lot of communication skills, other relevant skills, and they write about them in their applications. So highlighting these 5 here is not to say that these are the only 5 that pre-health students should look into, but just to point out that there are some health-related student organizations on campus. And if you're looking for them, here they are. And student orgs change over time. So for all I know, there's one in the works right now, and we're going to have a new health-related student org pretty soon, or this fall. Or one of these may sort of temporarily discontinue. That happens sometimes too as people graduate. So things shift. But these are 5 of the orgs that have, been around and a lot of pre-health students have been involved in over time. Okay, so wrapping up here, just a couple of final things to share. So first, we do have events. We encourage people to come to events. The times do vary. In theory, an event could take place any day of the week, and well, generally not in the mornings, but afternoon and evening. But very often we have events on Tuesdays or Thursdays between 12 and 1, because that is the longer lunch break time for the campus. And so it's a great time to fit in an event. When we do events over lunch, we do provide pizza so that you can come to the event and not go away hungry. And we advertise events through our Instagram page, our website, the college website where all the events are listed. Um, our mailing list, and then a couple days before events, we also put up posters, especially or usually within the Science Center, because so many pre-health students are in that area. So there's multiple ways that we advertise them. We do send out a weekly email to our mailing list that lists a lot of events, not only the ones that we are hosting, but they could be events that we have no connection to, maybe virtual events that are hosted by another school, another organization. So just things that we're aware of that may have some pre-health interest. And we're advertising our own events through those weekly emails as well. So you can be aware of those, but we'll have the specific event advertising for the events that we host will also be out, like I said, on our Instagram page and the website and the posters. Um, I'll go just to the next page to highlight the first event that is coming up again. This is fall 2025 right now as we're recording this. So the first event that is coming up this fall is, as you can see, it's got the same name as this presentation, Health Professions 101. So the idea is that hopefully people watch this presentation before coming to that event. There we will do a lot more interactive talking, meeting people, meeting campus partners, and connecting with each other. So that is taking place on Tuesday, September 16th, 2025. It's in person. It's in Cleveland L3 from 12 to 1 p.m. And again, we will serve pizza. So we hope to see many, many, many new students there. We do strongly encourage, before meeting with me, that you watch this video and come to that event. So again, hope to see many of you there. And then finally, the last slide, with our alum Zoe here, who is now a physician. Our last slide with resources listed, really ways for staying connected. So I mentioned before, we're located in the Career Development Center. There's the link to our website, our office email, our peer advisor email. So again, the student who works with us, that email is how you can reach that person directly. You can also reach the student directly by sending a direct message through Instagram, because Maria, she manages our Instagram page. And so if ever you're looking to connect with a pre-health student who's in a leadership position who works in our office, that would be a way to reach her. And then our phone number there as well. So please do stay connected. If you are not already on our mailing list, we would love to have you join. You can go to our website and you'll see a link there for joining our mailing list, or you can email us directly and let us know that you would like to join the mailing list. Either way is just fine. And again, we encourage everybody to make an appointment. Once a semester is great. If you're a new student, at least once this fall semester is recommended. And so you can do that through Handshake. But again, if ever you have difficulties, just shoot us an email or give us a call, and we will help you out with that. So I'm very much looking forward to meeting you, to meeting everybody who is new, and take care.